إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له أشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى أهله ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطيع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. We give praise and thanks to Almighty Allah. We ask Him to shower His blessing upon the noblest of mankind, members of His household, His companions, and all those who have taken upon His path to the day of, and will come to do so to the day of Qiyamah. Alhamdulillah, last week we started the bab of witr, Salatul Witr, and we took the first hadith, was a hadith of Abdullah bin Umar radiyallahu anhu. قال, he said, إن رجلا سأل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن صلاة الليل. A man happened to be identified in other narrations to be a Bedouin Arab, asked the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم about the night prayer. فقال, the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم therefore said, فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم therefore said, الصلاة الليل مثنى مثنى. The night prayer is 2-2 in pairs. فَإِذَا خَشِيَ أَحَدُكُمْ الصُّبْحَ. If any one of you fears that dawn will happen upon him, صَلَّى رَكَعَةً, then he will pray one rak'ah. رَكَعَةً وَاحِدَةً تُوتِرُ لَهُ مَا قَدْ صَلَّى. تُوتِرُ لَهُ مَا قَدْ صَلَّى. So this singular salah that rak'ah that he will play, that will pray, that he will observe, will make witri for him what he had previously prayed of 2-2s. So it will make the even numbers odd. The hadith is in Al-Bukhari and Muslim. So we went through it last week, just to go through the points of benefit. Just to go through the points of benefits, ما يؤخذ من الحديث, the things we get from the hadith. Number one, يستدل به على أن صلاة الليل ركعتان بلا زيادة ولا نقصان. This hadith is used as evidence to establish that the night prayers are 2 rakahs without an addition or a reduction. That is the shaf aspect of the night's prayer, the non-odd aspect of the night prayer, that they are in 2s. Number two, that we learn from it, that أن الوتر يكون آخر صلاة الليل لما وثق من نفسه بالقيام. Says this witr is ideally at the end of the night for the one who trusts himself that he'll be able to wake up. Otherwise, the next hadith that we'll take, the hadith for today, actually tells us that they can be observed anytime during the night. The third, we're going through this because we didn't have time to go through these points of benefit last week. Number three, that will get from the hadith of Abdullah bin Umar is inna waqt al-witr ينتهي بطلوع الفجر. The time for observance of Salatul Witr ends with the appearance of Salatul Fajr. Actually, the scholars differ with regards to this. Some of the scholars say that the time to observe witr ends when you observe your Salatul Subhi. So, and of course, Fajr will have appeared before you observe Salatul Subhi. So if Fajr appears and you haven't yet observed your Salatul Witr, then you can observe it. Of course, everyone says you can observe it, but are you observing it as Ada or Qadha? Ada is that you're observing something for the first time during its specified time. Qadha is repayment, that you're observing something for the first time outside of its normal time or its stipulated time. So for those who say that the witr ends with the appearance of Fajr, then they say you can observe it, but that would be a repayment, qadha. However, those who hold that it is Salatul Subhi that is the mark, if you haven't observed Salatul Subhi, then you're still within the time period of Al-Witr. This is a case of tomatoes, so they both agree that you can observe it. It is a non-compulsory salah. So even for compulsory salah, if you were to oversleep, then when you wake up, that is the time to observe it. Wala kafarata illa dhalik, and there's no kafara to be paid other than that. So how much more so something that is nafil? Number 4, al-afdal an al-witra yakun ba'da salat al-shafr. They says the best is for witr to be after salat al-shafr. The shafr are the even aspects of your tahajjud, and the witr is the odd aspect of your tahajjud. So the Sheikh rahimahullah, Sheikh Al-Basaam in Tayseer-ul, he says that the best is for your witr to be at the end of the various sets of twos, various pairs of salah that you will observe in the night. فَتَقْدِيمُ الشَّفْعِ قَبْلَ الْوِتْرِ هُوَ السُّنَّةِ. He says that observing the shafar, of observing the even number of rakahs, the pairs, before observing witri, the odd at the end, that positioning it this way is the sunnah. Let's go on before if the comment I'm about to say is not there, then I'll mention it. والاقتصار في وتر على ركعة واحد لم يتقدمها شافعي جائز. لم يتقدمها الشافع جائز. Says to observe only witri without any pair of salawat preceding it is also permissible. One wakes up at night, feels weak, and thinks that all I can manage is just one single rakah. So there are no two pairs, first that you'll observe. Just one rakah, then observe it. It's permissible. Or you're short of time, or for whatever reason, you just want to observe one single rakah. It is permissible. فقد جاء في حديث أبي أيوب رضي الله عنه مرفوعا, in a hadith by Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, there is a hadith that came from Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, marfu'an, meaning it is linked to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he said, "Man ahabba an yutira biwahidatin falyaf'al." Whoever wants to observe witri with only one rak'ah, then falyaf'al, he should do so. Let's look at the hadith down. أخرجه أبو داود والنسائي وابن ماجه وفي رواية للمسلم عن ابن عمر رضي الله عنه فإذا خفتم الصبح فأوتروا بواحدة. So this hadith I mentioned, you can observe just one single rak'ah. They are in Abu Dawud, An-Nasai, Ibn Majah, and in one of the narrations of Sahih Muslim on the topic, the Prophet ﷺ ended his statement by saying, فَإِذَا خِفْتَ وَإِذَا خِفْتَ الصُّبْحَ فَأَوْتِرْ بِالْوَاحِدِ. If you fear that subhi will happen upon you, whether it is because you've been observing two, and you fear that it's almost time for subhi, add one rakah to it, or you just woke up and you fear that all that you have, if you observe more than one, subhi will meet you there. So both cases apply. Then you observe only one single rakah. So those are evidences for observing one rakah. Now, the Sheikh rahimahullah goes on to say that وصححه ابن حبان. So the hadith is authentic. وصح عن جماعة من الصحابة أنهم أوتروا بواحدة من غير تقدم نفل قبلها. And it was also narrated from a companion of the Prophet ﷺ that they observed tahajjud with only one rak'ah of witr. With only one rak'ah of witr. من غير تقدم نفل قبلها. Without any nafla, any voluntary prayer, any two rakahs, or any rakah whatsoever preceding, that witr, that singular rakah of witr. So these are the evidences for that. Number 5, إجابة السائل على مشهد من الناس لتعميم الفائدة. You see here also that when the context requires it, that then one should give an answer. It's permissible when the context demands it or accommodates it to give an answer to a question that was asked in public, if the people will benefit and it won't, expose the private or the secrets of somebody who the one who had asked the question. So or any other related person that might be exposed, whose secrets might be exposed by answering the question publicly. A man asked here about the night's prayer. There's nothing proprietary about that question. Neither is there anything proprietary about the answer, and nobody is going to be exposed thereby. So the Prophet ﷺ answered the question. It will do a couple of things. One of it is that if somebody else in that gathering wants to ask that same question, then it will have been answered. So the time available will be used for other things. If also the people who hear will be able to transmit, not just one person hearing and transmitting, but many people will now hear, and the number of people that will hear from them will be more. And 3, it will stimulate other questions that are related to it. And Allahu A'lam. So number 6, istihbab al-witri wa qad qila bi wujubihi, that it is mustahab to observe witr. A weak statement says that it is actually wajib. It is not wajib. A man came to the Prophet ﷺ and asked the Prophet ﷺ what was compulsory on him, and he said, "Khamsa salawat fi al-layl wa nahar." So 5 prayers in the day and the night. So and these are Subh, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, and Isha. So it's not compulsory to observe, Salatul Layl or Witr. However, it is mustahab, and we all know the great benefits in this. وَقَدْ قِيلَ. So oftentimes when qila is used rather than qala, what the scholars are telling you there, or the one who is writing it, is that this is a weak position. بوجوبه وراجح أنه ليس بواجب لكنه من أفضل التطوعات. The more correct thing is that it is not, wajib, but it is one of the best of voluntary things that one can do. لكثرة النصوص في الأمر به وفضله, because of the copious amount of text about the Prophet ﷺ asking people to do it and the merits, therein. وقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لم يتركه في حضر ولا سفر, and that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم didn't abandon the observance of Qiyamul Layl, whether it was during a journey or when he was at home. Now, let's see if there were any benefits that we left out. When Sheikh Al-Basaam said that, let's go back to the point here. Now, he said over here, he said, Al-Afdal أن الوتر يكون بعد الشفع. He said, what is best? So immediately he said, what is best? That means what is mustahab, okay, is that the witr should come after the pairs that one observed. You observe X number of pairs of night prayer, then you now end it with witr. So this is the afdal, as the Sheikh Rahimahullah says. However, the Prophet ﷺ, in authentic reports, also encouraged also encouraged us to observe 2 rakahs after what? After the witr. 2 rakahs after the witr. That is also sunnah. So it is sunnah to so the sunnah of the sunnah is to do this sometimes and to do that sometimes. Sometimes observe your sets of shafar and end with witr. Sometimes observe your set of shafar, add witr to that, and add 1 more pair after that. So that will be really hitting the sunnah on the head. Let's go to Tanbih to see if we can pick up 1 or 2 things. Now, the Shaykh Rahimahullah says that the night's prayer, Al-Salaat al-Layl, Mathna Mathna, Yusalli min kulli raka'atayn, said that the night prayer is in pairs, and you say teslim after every pair. You say teslim after every pair. So because it is possible to understand that you just do the tashahud after every pair and you go to the next rak'ah. So this is the shafar aspect that the Shaykh Rahimahullah is talking about. وَيَخْتِمُهَا بِرَكَعَةٍ تُوتِرُ لَهُ مَا صَلَّى. And then one will end with 1 rak'ah, which will make odd what the even sets of rak'ahs that have preceded. Number 2, by the Shaykh, the benefits in the hadith, أنها لا تنحصر بعدد معين. Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen says the night prayer, what is more correct of the scholarly opinions, and this is the position of the majority of the scholars, is that the night prayer is not fixed in number. It's not fixed to 11. It's not fixed to 13. However, what the Prophet ﷺ was reported to have observed the most is 11 or 13. فَلِلْإِنسَانِ أَنْ يُصَلِّي مَا شَاءَ مِنْ رَكَعَاتٍ مَثْنَى مَثْنَى. It is for someone to observe what he is able, what he has capacity for in pairs. That again is the shafar aspect of it. لكن صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يزيد على 11 ركعة. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, however, did not exceed 11 rakahs. In another narration, it was 13 rakahs. It didn't exceed. La fi Ramadan, not in Ramadan, wala fi ghayrihi, and not in outside Ramadan. وَرُبَمَا صَلَّى 13 rak'atan, and sometimes you observe 13 rakahs. So, however, you started with this. إِنَّهَا لَا تُنْحَصَرْ بِعَدَدٍ مُعَيَّنٍ. The Salat al-Layl does not have a fixed number. And one of the reasons it doesn't have a fixed number is that the Prophet ﷺ himself sometimes observes 7, sometimes he observed 9, sometimes 11, sometimes 13. So it doesn't have a fixed number. And from what we said, even one rakah fulfills your obligation or your need to meet to observe Salatul Layl, Qiyam al-Layl. Now, number 4. And number 3, Mashru'iyatu al-Witr. We learn from this that it is Mashru' Witri, wa huwa Sunnah al-Mu'akkada, that it is an emphasized Sunnah. So much so that for the Prophet ﷺ, Allah commanded him to learn, to stand for prayer in the night. Says, Qumi layla illa qalila. Stand to observe Salah in the night, except a little. I.e., if you didn't add illa qalila, then it should have been a command to observe, for the Prophet ﷺ to observe tahajjud throughout the night, from the end of Isha up until Fajr. So Allah added illa qalila. So number 4, annahu yajuz an yutira bi rakatin wahida. It is permissible, as we said, to do witr with just one single rakah. Ana waqt al-witr yantahi bi tulu' al-fajr. The position of Sheikh Al-Basaam and Sheikh Uthaymeen is the same here, that the witr, the observance of witr ends with the fajr. However, you can, as we said, still observe it even after Salatul Subhi. If you missed the observance of your Qiyam al-Layl or your witr aspect of it, you can observe it after Salatul Fajr. You wake up, you want to observe your witr, and the Iqamah has been called. So, of course, you give precedence to the observance of the compulsory prayer. And afterwards, you would observe your witr. Number 6, جواز السؤال الخطيب على المنبر وإجابته. It is permissible, we learn from this, that it is for one to ask the lecturer whilst he is on the podium, a question. Ask him a question whilst he is on the podium. It is permissible, outside of Jumu'ah. It is also permissible during Jumu'ah if the matter is an important matter. We know the hadith of the Arab who came to the Prophet ﷺ in Jumu'ah and asked him to pray, that because of the drought, to pray for rain because of the drought, the animals were dying. This is something that has communal implication and all that. And the Prophet ﷺ prayed, and it began to rain and rained and rained. The next Jumu'ah, the man came, again, and said, please pray to Allah for us to cause the rain to cease. And the Prophet ﷺ obliged. So this is somebody, asking, requesting something from the khatib while he was giving the lecture. So all these are permissible. They are permissible. Now, so let's go to today's hadith. The hadith of our mother of the believers, Aisha radiyallahu anha. Said, An Aisha radiyallahu anha, from Aisha radiyallahu anha, قالت, she said, من كل الليل قد أوتر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من أول الليل وأوسطه وآخره فانتهى وتره إلى السحر. Al-Bukhari or Muslim said, in every night, if you take a night, night by night, قد أوتر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, then the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, one will see that he had performed witr min awwali layl, in the beginning of some of those nights, wa awsatih, and he will also have been will have been seen to have observed witr in the middle of some of those nights, wa akhirih, and at the end of those nights. So some of those nights you will have observed, he observed his witr at the end. So some in the beginning of the night, sometimes in the middle of the night, sometimes at the end of the night. That was how the Prophet ﷺ observed his witr. And she, radiallahu anha, said, فَانْتَهَا وِتْرُهُ إِلَى السَّحَرِ. His witr ended at the time of sahar. And sahar, where sahur is coined from, is the time where you have your sahur. So it is the time before fajr, the later part of the night that precedes the appearance of fajr. Some say it is even more specific than that, that it is the time between the appearance of the false fajr and the true fajr. So whatever the case, it is the time before Salatul Fajr, before the appearance of the Fajr. And one who wants to fast will be able to go and eat his sahur. المعنى الإجمالي يدخل وقت الوتر من فراغ من الصلاة العشاء. We learn that the time of Salat al-Witri starts once one concludes Salat al-Isha, وينتهي بطلوع الفجر, and ends with the appearance of Fajr. We said the scholarly positions on this. Some say Salat up until Salat al-Subh. ولذا, for this reason, فإن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قد أوتر أول الليل. So for this reason, the Prophet ﷺ sometimes would observe his salah, his witr, at the beginning of the night. So that means beginning of the night minus the time from when the night begins to when Isha begins. That is the time for Maghrib. The night starts once you can no longer see any portion of the disk of the sun, even when you can see the rays. So that is when the night starts. But that is not when tahajjud starts. That is not when the night prayer starts. The night prayer starts when you have concluded your Isha, when you have observed your Isha prayers. The Prophet ﷺ was not known to have observed, not even once, the night prayer before the observance of Salat al-Isha. So sometimes فإن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قد أوتر أول الليل نعم وأوسطه وآخره. So sometimes in the middle and sometimes at the night. ولكون إيقاعه في آخر الليل أفضل استقر وتره في السحر ويختم به صلاة الليل. Because the Prophet because observing the night's prayer at the later part of the night is the best. Therefore, the Prophet ﷺ made his witr, established the performance of his witr at the time of Sahar. So therefore, you could observe your Shafar immediately after your Isha and plan to wake up to observe the witr aspect of your tahajjud, or your qiyamul layl, or your tarawih at the time of Sahar. So this is what the Prophet ﷺ did with the qiyamul layl. Of course, if you're observing tarawih, you pray behind the imam and he concludes everything, there, and you get the reward, as the hadith says, for praying for the entire, night. And of course, because the night prayer is not fixed in number, and because of the evidence authentic from Prophet ﷺ, where he encouraged the observance of Shafar, a pair, after witr, then if you get up during the night after having prayed with your imam, then you can still pray. Now, before we go to Al-Ahkam, let us see the ikhtilaf of the scholars on this. Now, اتفق العلماء, the scholars are united on what? أن ابتداء وقته بعد صلاة العشاء, that the commencement of tahajjud, qiyamul layl, tarawih, they're all the same thing, different names. When you look at the reason why you're doing it, qiyamul layl because you had slept, you got up, qama fil layl, in the night. Then tarawih, if you observe it, whether within Ramadan or outside Ramadan, in a certain pattern, a pattern where after every 2 pairs, you take a break. So after every 4 rakahs, 2 rakahs, say the salam, another 2 rakahs, take the salam, and now rest. So because of that raha, rest, it is called tarawih, a process of resting, something that involves resting. Now, so the scholars are united that the night prayer starts after Salat al-Isha. وَاخْتَلَفُوا فِي نِهَايَتِهِ, but they differ with respect to when it ends. What I talked about, so I'll just say it in passing quickly because of time. So Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i, and one of the narrations from Imam Ahmed is that it ends فَذَهَبَ الْمَالِكُ. They say that it ends at Subh. Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i, and one of the 2 positions of Imam Ahmed is that it ends at Subh, even though Fajr had appeared. وذهب الإمام أحمد في مشهور من مذهبه. Imam Ahmed, in a second and the more popular opinion from him, that وقته ينتهي بطلوع الفجر, that the time ends with طلوع الفجر. And you see that is a position that Imam Al-Basaam, Sheikh Al-Basaam and Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen held. وَجَازَمَ بِهَا فِي الْمُغْنِ. So let's keep these parts. We've said it. Yeah. So let's go to the Ahkam that the Sheikh mentions from here. What are the rulings extractable from there? After all, the book is Umdatu al-Ahkam, the rulings, the pillars of rulings. So what are the rulings that are extractable from this hadith? Sheikh Al-Basaam in Tayseer says, Jawazu salati al-witr fi awwal al-layl. We see that it is permissible to observe salat al-witr in the beginning of the night. The hadith is that the Prophet ﷺ observed his witri, sometimes in the beginning of the night, sometimes in the middle of the night, sometimes at the end of the night. So it is permissible to observe in the beginning. Wa awsati, and in the middle. Wa akhiri, and at the end. Wa innal jami' waqtuha. All of it, it's time. It's a long range from after Isha. Number two, أنا الأفضل أن يكون وتره في آخر الليل لمن وافق من نفسه بالقيام. That what is best is for the one who trusts that he'll wake up to delay his witr aspect of his qiyam to the time of sahar, to the end of the night. Let's go to Tanbih and see if we'll pick up one or two things from the Sheikh. Now, Fawaid al-Hadith. The Sheikh says, number one, Jawaz al-Witr fi awal al-layl. Like, the same thing we've learned it. Number two, An al-Waqt al-Witri min Salat al-Isha ila Tula al-Fajr. So we've dealt with that. Let us go to the next Hadith. I think this is the last Hadith on the Bab of Witr. Now, and Aisha, also from our mother, Aisha radiallahu anha, mother of the believers, radiallahu anha, قالت, she said, كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي من الليل 13 ركعة. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to observe the night 13 rakahs. يوتر من ذلك بخمس. He will do witri. Out of that 13, his witri will be 15. La, how will you observe this witr? In the previous hadith, she said that the witri will be at the time, at the akhir al-layl, at the time of sahar. So, how will you observe these 5 rakahs? La yajlis fi shay'in illa fi akhiriha. He will not sit in any manner, i.e. the sitting for tashahud, he will not observe it, illa fi akhiriha, until the end. So to be 5 straight rakahs, no tashahud. So it's short and clear. So we'll skip the what do you call it? The comprehensive explanation of that. The Sheikh Sheikh Al-Basaam says, Fa'ida, benefits of this hadith. اختلفت الروايات عن عائشة في كيفية صلاة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Said there are differences in the statement of our mother Aisha radiallahu anha with regards to how the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam observed the salah, i.e. the number. وقد روي 7 have been narrated from her. وتسعة 9 that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam observed 9 rakahs have been narrated from her. وإحدى 11 has been narrated. وثلاثة 13 has also been narrated from her. وغير ذلك, and other than that have also been narrated from her. So this shows that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't have a fixed number that was observing. So she was his wife, and she was present when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam will observe this, salah during her nights. So she recounted these incidents when he will say 7, when he will say 9, when he will say 11, when he will say 13. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Now, وروي عنها في صحيحين أنه ما كان يزيد على 11. It is narrated from her that the Prophet ﷺ did not exceed 11. So how do we reconcile, the parts that he did not exceed 11 and that he observed 13 rakas? How do we reconcile between these two, ahadith? The Sheikh rahimahullah, Sheikh Al-Basaam, he says, وَأَحْسَنُ مَا يَجْمَعُ بَيْنَهُنْ, says different scholars have tried to reconcile this, and the best of their reconciliation, أَنَّ رِوَايَةً بِعَدَمِ زِيَادَةَ عَلَى 11 رَكَعَةً هُوَ الْأَغْلَبُ مِنْ الصَّلَاةِ, says that the narration that says that the Prophet ﷺ will not exceed 11 is talking about the, what is most preponderant. And this is an approved way of speaking. For instance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith about a man who will come yawm al-qiyamah, لا يعمل عملا قط. He did not do any good deed. He did not do any good deed, except that he will loan people money, and if they were not able to pay, he will ask a servant to forgo it for them. If he did not do any good deed, loaning people, forgiving people of debt, of their debts, is that not a good deed? But he's saying he did not do any good deed because generally, apart from this, his good deeds are few. But the man will be amongst the fortunate yawm al-qiyamah because he also did another good deed that was even better than that, loaning, forgiving debts. And what is that? He had iman. Doing all the good deeds in the world possible and iman being absent, la yanfa, it does not benefit a man. قُلْ هَلْ نُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِالْأَخْسَرِينَ أَعْمَالًا. Should we not inform you about the worst of losers? الَّذِينَ ضَلَّ سَعْيُهُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَهُمْ يَحْسَبُونَ أَنَّهُمْ يُحْسِنُونَ صُنْعًا. They are those whose deeds were lost in this world whilst they were thinking that they had done things that is for the morrow. أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بِآيَاتِ رَبِّهِمْ وَلِقَائِهِ. They are those who did kufr in the signs of their Lord and in meeting with him. They disbelieved in Allah. فَحَبِطَتْ أَعْمَالُهُمْ. And their deeds became invalidated. فَلَا نُقِيمُ لَهُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ وَزْنًا. Therefore, on the day of judgment, there's nothing to weigh. No good deed to weigh. It has been lost in this world. So there's no need for a scale. A scale will not be appointed for them. What will the scale measure of good? Nothing. Nothing. So the man had good deeds also. But to emphasize that apart from iman, loaning people money, his deeds were really, really small, said he didn't do any good deed. Just like, many other instances like that. So it is an approved way of talking in almost all cultures where what is preponderant is stated as if it is the only thing. So the Sheikh rahimahullah, Sheikh Al-Basaam, he says, this type of reconciliation, mentioning this, is the best of what appears to be the reconciliation of this part. Yes, he observed 11. Yes, he observed 13. Yes, he didn't observe more than 11, meaning that for most of his salawats, it is 11 that he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, observed. Now, so what are the Al-Ahkam Al-Mustanbata Min Al-Hadith? What are the rulings that are extractable from this hadith? One, أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قد جعل صلاته في الليل 13 ركعة. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم had observed 13 rakahs. He had made his night prayer 13 من دون ركعتي الفجر, without rakat al-fajr being added to it. In some of the reconciliation, some of the scholars have said that rakat al-fajr is, part of it. It's 11 plus 2 rakas of fajr, 2 voluntary rakas before salat al-fajr, rakatain al-fajr or rakatan al-fajr. That those are part of it. Some say no, it is the ratiba of Aisha. Allahu alam. The reconciliation that we just looked at is that he observed any number. However, what was most preponderant was 11. So preponderant that it was as if he didn't observe others, if not that we have text for them. Number 2, وأنه يوتر في بعض أحيان من صلاته بخمس ركعات. Sometimes the Prophet ﷺ did witr with 5 rakahs. And this is something we should try to implement. Instead of what we're used to, let us go out into the new knowledge zone of 5 straight rakahs. لا يجلس إلا في آخر ركعة منها. You won't sit until the end of the last rakah from these 5. So let's try and implement this sunnah. Of course, where people, understand the sunnah, or even if they don't understand the sunnah, they will not lynch you for practicing the sunnah. They will just wait after the salah for you to pass a comment. You just see that people didn't leave early after you observe the 5 straight, rakahs, waiting for you to talk. If they hold you in that esteem, they know you know what you're doing. And if you don't say anything, somebody will, scratch his head, cough a bit, and ask, Imam, you did this. Could you please explain it to us, or something like that? And then you explain. Or you could have explained before that and all that. Now, number 3, Anal Murad. What is intended بكون صلاة الليل مثنى في غير الوتر is that when the statement that the night prayer is is 2-2, is in pairs, is with respect to the shafa aspect without including the witr. So when the Prophet ﷺ said the night prayer is a 2-2, he was talking without intending the witr. The witr is part of it, but because it is known to the companions and the one who is asking the question, then he didn't, bother. But perhaps there was a context in it that the night prayer, how do we observe it? We know how we observe, what do you call it? Subhi, for instance, 2 rakas, and you say teslim. Dhuhr, 2 rakas, you sit, you do the tashahud, but you don't do the teslim. The same for Asr. So this night's prayer, how do we do it? And Prophet ﷺ answered, 2 rakas. That's 2 rakas, do the tashahud, do the taslim. فَإِنَّهُ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمْ قَدْ صَلَّى سَبْعًا. The Prophet ﷺ, apart from 5 straight rakas, he had observed 7. لَا يَجْلِسْ إِلَّا فِي آخِرِهَا. He didn't sit until the end, until the 7th, after the 7th rakah. وَقَدْ صَلَّى خَمْسًا. And sometimes he observed 5. لَا يَجْلِسْ إِلَّا فِي آخِرِهَا. He wouldn't sit until after the 5th. وَقَدْ يُصَلِّي 9 وَيَتَشَهَّدْ فِي الثَّامِنَةِ. Sometimes you will observe 9 And the manner he will do it is different from the way he will do it when you observe 5 and 7. When you observe 9 rakahs at a go, when you go to the 8th, you will yatashahad fi thamina minha bila salam. After the 8th straight rakah, he will sit down, do the tashahud, but he will not say the salam. Then he will get up, thumma yusalli tasi'. Then he will pray the 9th, wa yatashahad wa yusallim. Then he will do the tashahud and then say the salam. So this was how the Prophet ﷺ, variations of how he will say his witr. So you can say 1, you can say 3, you can say 5 the way it has been described. You can say 7 the way it's been described, 9 the way it's been described. Number 4. قال الشيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية رحمه الله, Sheikh Ahmed ibn Taymiyyah said that أفضل الصلاة بعد المكتوبة قيام الليل, that it appears that the best of the prayers after the maktuba, the compulsory, the 5 daily compulsory prayers, is the qiyam al-layl. Wa awkadu dhalik al-witr wa rak'ata al-fajr. And the most emphasized of these night prayers that occur when it is dark, are the witr and the rakatan al-fajr, the 2 rakas ratiba said of nafila said before salat al-fajr. Number 5. وقال بعد ذكر وجوه الوتر الواردة في السنة والصواب أن الإمام إذا فعل شيئا مما جاء به السنة وأوتر على وجه من الوجوه المذكور يتبعه المأموم في ذلك. Said Sheikh Ibn Taymiyyah that after mentioning the wujuh, variations of that has been reported al-warida fi sunnah, in the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ in observing the witr, the Sheikh rahimahullah said, the Imam said, that what is the most correct is that once the Imam that you are following observes any of the forms that have been authentically narrated in the Sunnah, then you should follow him in doing that. You should follow him in doing that. وقال and even if he observes a number that you are not used to, follow him in doing that too, because we've said earlier that there is no fixed number to the night's prayer. There's no fixed number to the night's prayer. So don't say you observe 23. No, I'm only going to observe 11 and I'll stop praying behind him. No, you have only lost out by doing that because of the hadith that if you're to pray behind the Imam and finish your prayer behind him, then it will be recorded for you that you've prayed throughout the night. So pray behind him. Complete the salah behind him. Now, وقال المحاملي صلاته صلى الله عليه وسلم ستة الوتر ستة أنواع, said that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم صلاته الوتر ستة أنواع. Now, that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم's observance of the witr is in 6 variations. It's in 6 variations. Okay. Now, so the first of them, rakatun wahida, 1 single rakah. That's what you want to observe. That's what you have, power or capacity to observe that night. Observe it. So it's authentic. 2 is ثلاث ركعات مفصولة, 3 rakahs that are differentiated from the shafa. You've observed X number of pairs of shafa, maybe 2, maybe 4, maybe 6, maybe 10, maybe 16, whatever the case may be. You now add 3 rakahs that are mafsul, that are mafsul from that. 3 rakahs that are mafsul from that are, cut off from that. Then another form is خمس ركعات لا يقعد إلا في آخرهن, 5 rakahs straight, no sitting down until the end. سبع ركعات يقعد في السادس. Another form is that 7 rakahs, you'll sit in the 6th, ولا يسلم, you do the tashahud, but no teslim. ثم يقوم إلى السابعة ويتمها. Then you would go for the 7th and complete it, i.e. say the tashahud and what's after that, the taslim. Penultimate form, you will observe 9 rakahs, 9 raka'at. Yatashahad fi thamin, you will sit for tashahud in the 8th rakah. Wala yatimmuha, you won't have completed, so he will stand. Thumma yaqum ila tasi' fa yatimmuha. Then you bring 1 more rakah, the 9th, and complete his salah by saying the tashahud and the taslim. So 8, sit for tashahud, stand for the 9th, tashahud after that, and taslim. And finally, 11 rakah, 11 rakahs. Yusallim fi kulli rak'atain. You will observe 11 rakahs, say the taslim after every pair of rakahs of shafa. Thumma ya'ti biwahida. Then so that will be 10, 5 rakahs, then 5 pairs rather of 5 pairs, making 10. Then you add 1 to it. That is 1 rakah. 1 rakah. So that makes 10 plus 1, 11. So this is what the Imam Al-Mahamili said with regards to the versions of the Prophet ﷺ's salah. So inshallah, we will stop here. May Allah let what we have learned be of benefit. So if you have any question, we can ask. Let me. Okay. Do you have any questions? Okay. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.